Hello, my name is Rick Meredith. I'm a member of the Kern chapter of the Sons of American Revolution, and I'm here today to talk to you about the various forms of money that they use to purchase products. But before I do that, I want to take a second and just talk about what do we use today. We have coins, pennies, dimes, quarters, nickels. We have dollar bills that are paper money, $5 bills, $10 bills, 20s, 50s, 100s. We've got credit cards. We've got checkbooks. We use our cell phone and we use a tablet to purchase items with. What did the colonists have? They didn't have any checkbooks. They didn't have any credit cards. They definitely didn't have any cell phones and they didn't have any tablets. So what did they have? They had three forms of money. They had commodity money, they had coins, and they had paper money. So let's talk about commodity money first. They would hunt, and one of the things they hunted for was beaver. Beaver was very plentiful in the many rivers and streams that were up in the northern colonies, specifically New England, New York, Massachusetts, Delaware, Rhode Island, those kinds. And so they would hunt and trap beaver. This is the actual pelt, and they would hunt for these, they would trap multiples of these, and they would trade them for goods that they wanted to buy. A second form of money is called wampum. Does anybody know what wampum means? Wampum is jewelry that the Indians made. They used two kinds of shells, primarily whelk shells and quahog shells. The quahog shell was the most preferential because of the purplish color that's here. They had crude stone instruments that they used, and they would actually make beads out of them. Here's a sample of the round beads and tubular beads. They could make them any sizes, depending upon the size of the shell. The tubular beads have holes going through the center of them, and they would put holes in these beads here, the round beads. What did they use one for? They would string them together and they would make a necklace. They could also string them together in smaller quantities and make a bracelet. So these were the items that were primarily in the northern colonies. The southern colonies, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia, they focused more on what they could grow. One of the items they grew was cotton. And cotton was a very popular item that they did, very expensive because they had to hand harvest these off, so it actually became very valuable. And this could be used in any fabrics. They shipped them to other colonies, and they also shipped them overseas to England and other continents. Another product are these leaves. Does anybody know what these leaves are? These are actual real tobacco leaves from Virginia. The colonists would grow these, they would harvest them, they would put the leaves in barrels, they would put them in individually in the barrels, stack them up, and then they could ship the barrels to other colonies, or they shipped them to Europe for use. You could take these leaves and roll them up, make cigars, or crumble them up and make tobacco that would be used to smoke in your pipe. So this was commodity money. And this was used in the late 1600s all the way through the 1700s. The second form is coins. The principal coin that was used was the Spanish dollar right here. Another question, does anybody know what a bit is? The Spanish coin could be broken up into 8 pieces, which is why you may have heard the terminology, the Spanish piece of 8. They would break these up into pieces, and each piece was called a bit. Here's an example of 2 bits here. You could break them up in half and then you had 4 bits, or a single bit. These 2 bits today were the equivalent of a quarter, and that's where the terminology for a quarter today comes from. A couple of other coins that were produced, here's a New Hampshire half penny as an example, and a Massachusetts pine tree copper penny. These weren't as prevalent, but the colonies did produce these. But this was the main coin that was used, and I'll talk about this one here in just a second. The third form of money was currency, the paper money itself. And there were 2 kinds. There were colonial currency and there was continental currency. In the early days, and these were done from 1690 to the mid-1770s, They used denominations from England. So they used pounds, shilling, and pence. And these are some real examples of what was produced. Here's a 5 shilling from Delaware, a 5 shilling from South Carolina, 15 shillings from Pennsylvania, 10 shillings from Connecticut, and here's an 18 pence from New Jersey. So this is what they initially used. Well, as time went on and the colonists got very unhappy with the British, then they said, the heck with that, we're going to go to the dollar currency. We're already using the Spanish dollar. So then they started printing currency in dollars. So here's a New York $10 bill. Here's a North Carolina $4 bill. Here's a Rhode Island $3 bill. Here's a Virginia $250 bill. Here's a Georgia 4, a Maryland 8, Massachusetts 8, New Hampshire 7. You can see all kinds of different forms were used. The problem was that there was nothing backing this currency. There were no gold, there was no silver. So that was one of the big issues. The second issue is a dollar in Maryland the same as a dollar in Georgia? I don't know. The other thing is, if you're traveling from Maryland to New Hampshire, does New Hampshire recognize the Maryland dollar? The Continental Congress in 1775 decided that it was important to have one common currency for the colonies. So what they did is they produced what was called the Continentals. $20 bills, here's a $1 Continental coin. They had the same challenges that the individual colonies did because the colonies continued to produce these. So the colonies had these, plus we had these being produced. In addition, the British got smart and said, hey, we'll counterfeit these. So they produced their own version of these and put those in the marketplace. So now we had 3 different things going on in the marketplace. The Congress actually produced $243 million of continental currency. So my question to you is, does anybody have an idea as to what that is worth today? In today's dollars, that $243 million is $7.2 billion with a B, $7.2 billion. So the combination of the counterfeit money, all the colonial money still in the marketplace, no gold and silver to back it, the tax revenues that they wanted to create to support this, which never came to fruition, the continental dollar devalued to 1/40th of what it was originally printed off as. So this $20 bill would be a couple bucks. So the terminology that was coined was, it's not worth a continental. In other words, it's not even worth $1. And so what happened in May of 1781, they ceased to circulate this currency. That completes my presentation on the different forms of money, and the current chapter of the Sons of America Revolution appreciates you taking the time to watch our presentations. Thank you.